Shalom, Shavua Tov, everybody. Chag Tu B'Shvat Sameach. Welcome to a new week of the Israel Brief with me, Rolene Marks, brought to you by Lay of the Land, where we bring you those top stories making headlines every Monday to Thursday. And we're coming to you from an unseasonably freezing cold Israel, where it basically hasn't stopped raining for several days. But it's a wonder we're complaining. Some of you live in countries where this is nothing but a balmy day. But you didn't come here for the weather report. You came for your news. So let's get straight into it. And we begin with the biggest story of the moment, one that really struck a sense of anger and vulnerability into Jews around the world. And that is the story of the horrendous hostage-taking situation that happened on Shabbat, on Saturday, at the Beth Israel Synagogue in Colleyville, a suburb of Dallas in Texas. So let's break down the latest developments that we have coming out of that story. Police in the United Kingdom announced earlier today that they had arrested 2 teenagers in connection with the hostage-taking situation. What happened on Saturday, what we know so far, is that Malik Faisal Akram came into the synagogue. The rabbi in question thought he was homeless and tried to help him. He then took the rabbi and 3 congregants hostage for at least 12 hours while FBI and special forces tried to negotiate a release. Akram wanted the immediate release of Afia Siddiqui. Now, she is a terrorist they call Lady Al-Qaeda, and she is known for her anti-Semitic and anti-Israel beliefs. What is interesting is that some news outlets are reporting that the FBI don't think that the event was linked to anti-Semitism, but I don't know, maybe I'm just bad at putting puzzles, but it looks like 2 and 2 equals 4 here to me. But what it has resulted in is Jewish communities across the world, and including here in Israel, feeling extremely vulnerable to this kind of anti-Semitism. We know that special forces entered the premises or entered the synagogue and neutralized or killed Akram, and that the rabbi and the 3 congregants were able to escape unharmed. Now, the Daily Mail just moments ago published a headline tying Akram to rants that he had previously made, where he said that he would have liked to have been one of the terrorists on board one of the aircrafts on 9/11 that carried out the worst terror attack on US soil. And of course, questions are now arising as to how, knowing his history, he was able to enter the United States, and what exactly are the ties between Akram and the 2 teenagers that were arrested in Greater Manchester earlier today. And of course, we're going to discover this as the investigations unfold. President Joe Biden called this an act of terrorism, and our Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said that he was monitoring events very closely, and yesterday had an opportunity to speak to the rabbi and say to him the next time you're in Israel, he would like to meet him and give him a big hug, because we're just so grateful that he is alive. Rabbi Citron Walker, a young rabbi, very active in interfaith work, says that he is just grateful that he came out of this alive, and so are we. But it raises feelings of vulnerability and feelings of anger. I don't know about you, but yesterday I was extremely angry. I'm angry that whether it be in Colleyville, in Dallas, or Johannesburg, or Sydney, or New York, or Paris, or London, or Malmo, or anywhere in the world, we have to go to synagogue, to shul, behind very, very, very intense security, that we cannot enter Jewish installations without security checks, that our children can't go to school wherever they are in the world without being behind security bars, and in some places like France or Belgium even have soldiers posted outside of the shul for fear of the safety of the students inside, for the mere reason that they are Jewish. It's ignited a feeling of intense anger, and of course, being active on social media, many of us are saying that the misinformation shared by celebrities, shared by the media, the way they cover stories, the way that armchair generals and activists talk about things on social media is creating a climate of hate that results in this kind of dangerous consequence. How do we deal with it? We're all asking. Well, from our perspective here at Lay of the Land, we have to show up to fight anti-Semitism wherever it rears its ugly head. But we also have to go through life with an innate sense of pride. Wear your Magen David. Celebrate who you are. And very importantly, know your history. Know where you come from and know what's going on in Israel so that you can tackle some of the difficult situations. In other news, just moments ago, reports came in from the IDF that there was an attempted stabbing at a bus stop at Tzomet Gush Etzion, that is the Gush Etzion junction. Nobody was hurt, but the terrorist was neutralized. And this follows reports coming in earlier today that a Palestinian took a car with the Israeli national in it. The national managed to jump out of the car. But it's not all bad news. Today we commemorate and we honor somebody very, very important in our history and in the history of the United States. And that is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. Yes, it's Martin Luther King Day in the United States, and we wanted to take a moment just to pay tribute to the great civil rights leader whose greatest dream and activism was based around the belief that one day we would be judged on the content of our character and not on the color of our skin. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, who is honored here in Israel with streets in his name, it was somebody who extolled the great democratic virtues of the state of Israel, and also very importantly said when they say Zionist, they mean Jew, and spoke about the fact that when you are anti-Zionist, you are in fact anti-Semitic. And those words that rang true so many decades ago rang true today. But it is his belief in brotherhood, his belief in healing that we want to take forward. He also said that only light can drive out the darkness, and that he would choose love over hate. And Reverend Dr. King, wherever you are, we honor you, we remember you. And our final story is very celebratory, and that is that today is the birthday of the trees. I lost my train of thought there for a moment, giving a great honor to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. But today is the festival of Tu B'Shvat. It is the new year of the trees, which I always find interesting. It falls in the middle of winter here in Israel. But it is a day to celebrate nature. And of course, Israel's made the decision that we are going to become a world leader in dealing with some of the challenges facing the environment today. So wherever you are in the world, hug a tree, give thanks for the fact that Israel today has more trees where we are currently than where we were founded as a state nearly 8 decades ago. And celebrate your heritage by enjoying dried fruit and nuts and your connection to the land that is Israel. So those are your top stories making headlines here. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. We have a very important article up by Josh Feldman from Australia about how the United Nations is playing a role in giving the names of Uyghur Muslims to the Chinese government. Illuminating reading indeed. It's also up on our Facebook page. While you are there, please give us a like or a follow if you haven't. We really want to grow our community and we need your help to do that. We're on YouTube at the Israel Brief. Please give us a like, share our content, hit the subscribe button because, again, we really need your help to grow our outreach. And we're on Twitter at Lay of the Land 5. Follow us and interact with us there. So from a freezing Modi'in in the center of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, and I'll be with you tomorrow with your top stories.